Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be figuring out how fast can you beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Mewtwo. We all know that Mewtwo is an extremely good Pokemon with really good stats and has a pretty okay moveset and can learn a pretty good variety of HM and TM moves as well. Out of all of these speed runs that I've done so far with all these Pokemon, the fastest time I have so far is a 7:58 done by Mew. And honestly, I'm wondering what you guys think. Do you think Mewtwo is going to have a faster or slower time than Mew? Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below and let's get right into it. Oh yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe if you actually enjoy this kind of content and you want to see more of it. So like always, Professor Birch is running away from a level 2 Zigzagoon and I end up using the Universal Pokemon Randomizer in order to change one of the starters to Mewtwo. My starting moves are Confusion and Disable. Now Confusion is a pretty decent move, but since youngster Calvin is one of the first Force trainers we actually have the battle and he has a Dark type, that's not going to work out. He has a Poochyena and it looks like the only way we could actually get past him at this point is either to use all my PP so I could use Struggle, or I could just level up until I learn a non-psychic move, and that's not gonna be realistic. And because originality is just oozing out of every crevice I have, I end up naming Mewtwo Mew3. In order to actually use Struggle and beat youngster Calvin, because he has a Dark type, I have to run out of PP on all of my moves, which is Confusion and Disable, and it does take a while, but eventually only after 2 struggles, I end up taking the Poochyena out, and we can move forward. I have to do the same exact thing to take down the Team Aqua Grunt in Petalburg Woods, and this actually got pretty close because I got hit with Sand Attack a ton, but only after 2 hits I'm able to take it out. And with this Team Aqua Grunt out of the way, next up is the first gym, Roxanne. I arrive at Roxanne at level 11 and she leads off with a Geodude at level 12, which I hit with Confusion, almost taking it out but bringing it into the red. It gets healed up with a potion, but one more Confusion is enough to take it out. I get the level 12, so our stats are just a little bit better for this next Geodude, but the same exact thing happens this time. Gets healed up with a potion and then one more Confusion is enough to take it out. And last but not least is a Nosepass at level 15. And even though Nosepass is a rock with a big orange nose, this actually almost managed to take down my Mewtwo, and we only won with 7 HP remaining, but this was my first attempt, so I can't really complain. And even though I have a demigod of all Pokemon, I still am forced to use all my PP on a Poochyena. That way I could actually use Struggle against the Team Aqua Grunt that I have to fight once again in Respiro Tunnel. And to absolutely nobody's surprise, one Struggle is enough to take down this level 11 Poochyena, and we're able to go on to the next gym, which is Brawly, which should be a joke since we do have Confusion. At this point, I'm level 16, and Brawly leads off with a level 16 himself, being Machop, and I am able to take that down with 1 Confusion. And next up is a Meditite at level 16. I hit it with a Confusion, doing a lot of damage, and 1 more Confusion is enough to take it out. And last but not least is Brawly's ace, a Makuhita at level 19, who ends up going down to 1 super effective Confusion, and just like that, we got the second gym badge from Brawly relatively easy. I say relatively easy, but honestly, that gym battle couldn't have went any easier. I then find Steven and deliver the letter to him. That way, we have access to Slateport City. In Slateport City, you have to take on a couple of Team Aqua Grunts, but at level 22 I now have Swift, which is a great move considering I'm actually able to hit Dark types now without running myself out of PP. Next up is everybody's favorite fight. Of course I'm talking about this May battle, but since we are a Mewtwo and have some pretty decent moves, I'm able to use Confusion and take out Lombre relatively easy, and the same exact thing happens to Marshtomp. Even though it's at level 20, this is no issue whatsoever. Her last Pokemon is a Slugma at level 18 who goes down to 1 Confusion, and finally I have an easy May battle, even though I didn't really expect this one to be hard because, I mean, we do have a Mewtwo. Next up is Watson, and even in legendary speedruns, I always have issues taking this guy down. I'm able to one-shot Voltorb with a Confusion, and next up is Electric at level 20, who also goes down to 1 Confusion. Next out is a Magneton, which is definitely the hardest challenge we have here, as Confusion almost does no damage as we get paralyzed and then get hit with a Supersonic. Being paralyzed is definitely annoying, and I get hit with a Shockwave here a couple of times, and I figure out a combination of moves where I'm able to take down Magneton without knocking him in the Super Potion range, so that was super nice. Last out is Magneton, and luckily I get a crit with Confusion, and I'm able to take him down with 1 more, even though he had a Citrus Berry, and that was actually my first attempt on Watson, so I'm super happy it went that way. Next up is Maxie at the top of Mount Chimney. Now his Mightyena was an issue, but eventually I got a pretty lucky run where I was able to basically 2-shot him, and the rest of his team is an absolute joke, as Mew3 was able just to use Confusion to wipe out the rest of his team. But now, with Maxie out of the way, next up is Flannery. Now I don't know if we're gonna have any trouble with Flannery, to be honest. I think we'll be fine, but let's find out. Flannery leads off with a Numel at level 24, and I'm almost able to one-shot it with a confusion. It gets healed up, I knock it right back down, and I'm able to one-shot the Slugma, and I'm able to two-shot the camera up, which is pretty nice. And last up is a Torkoal at level 29. Now the main issue I had here was the Torkoal at level 29 because it hit me with multiple overheats, and since this thing has a white herb and the sun was up most of the time, it was doing a massive amount of damage and was easily able to take me out. Luckily this time around, Torkoal set up its own sun, and I got a critical hit with a confusion, taking it out in only 2 hits, and I was able to defeat Flannery only after a few attempts. And now with Flannery out of the way, next up is Norman. I'm not really sure how this one's gonna go. I know slacking should be an issue, but let's find out what happens. Norman leads off with a Spinda at level 27, which I'm able to two-shot with confusion, and the same thing happens with Vigoroth, but next out is a slacking, which of course we had a lot of issues with. Slacking is extremely strong, and this thing had a hyper potion used on it, and it also had a citrus berry, so it was super annoying to take down, plus it was extremely strong, but eventually I got a lucky run where I was able to take it out with 38 HP left. I decided not to learn Psych up here, and last up is a Lanoon at level 29. Now I end up going for a confusion here, and it surprisingly doesn't do that much damage. It does just over half, but he tries to set up a belly drum here, so that basically just means this battle's over. One more confusion is enough to take out the Lanoon, and just like that, we defeat Norman. Oh yeah, hey guys, let's hack the algorithm together. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite Hoenn gym leader is. Personally, I think I like Norman the best, but I'm actually curious to see what your guys' favorite is. Next up is the Weather Institute. We have to take on Team Aqua admin Shelly, and she leads off with a Carvana at level 28, which I hit with Swift, which is actually enough to one-shot, which is pretty nice. And next up is a Mightyena at level 28. I end up hitting Mightyena with a Swift, and it actually doesn't do too much damage, but then I get with a Swagger, which is super annoying because I end up hitting myself in confusion twice and then taking bites, almost going down, but finally I end up getting a Swift off to win the battle. Dark types are super annoying in this run because I can't really use any good moves against them, and that makes me wonder how I'm going to do against Sydney considering he is a Dark type Elite 4 member. Oh yeah, and this Weather Institute guy gives me a cast for him, and I end up naming him Subscribe to remind you guys if you haven't already subscribed because it helps the channel out a ton and it hopefully gives me a future in YouTube. Next up is May once again, and she leads off with a level 29 Lombre who hits me with a Fake Out, which barely does any damage as I'm able to go for confusion, doing a lot of damage, and one more is enough to take it out. Next out is Slugma at level 29, and I end up going for a confusion here for a one-shot, and last but not least is her Marshtomp at level 31, and I end up going for a confusion, actually getting a critical hit, so obviously it's enough to take it out in only one hit. And now with May out of the way, that rhymes. And now with May out of the way, next up is Winona. I honestly can't imagine having issues with Winona besides Skarmory, but even Skarmory shouldn't be able to take a lot of confusions, right? Winona leads off with a Swablu at level 29. Now this thing does have Perish Song, which is super annoying, and luckily it doesn't go for it. It only goes for a mirror move. It gets healed up with a Hyper Potion, but I'm just able to use a few more confusions to take it out. Next out is Tropius at level 29. Now I end up going for a confusion here, just doing half as it sets up a Sunny Day, and I'm just short of being able to take it out, and it just decides to stall me with Synthesis, which is super annoying because I can't do anything while the sun's out. Oh wait, he went for Solar Beam. Never mind, he's dead. Next out is Pelipper at level 30. Now this thing is super annoying because all it likes to do is spam Supersonic and Protect, and eventually I do get confused and I actually hit myself in confusion, and I just try to hit this thing over and over, but it keeps using Protect, but eventually I end up taking it out with another confusion. Next up is Skarmory. I knew this thing was going to be super annoying. I end up setting up a barrier and it gets healed up and it takes forever. I sped up the footage there. It was super annoying, but eventually I take it out. And next up is Altaria at level 33. Altaria starts to set up Dragon Dances, which is super scary because I'm only at 58 HP, but for some reason this thing ends up going for Dragon Breath instead of a physical move, so I'm able to get a lucky crit confusion to win the battle. I have no idea what was going through her mind when she went for that move, but I mean, I'm not complaining one bit. Next, I make my way to the top of Mount Pyre where I end up getting the Magma Emblem. That way we have access to the Magma hideout, and we also have to do a lot more story stuff, which is pretty irrelevant because all the battles are pretty much a joke. Before I actually made my way into the Magma hideout, I needed an HM Pokemon to use Strength, and oh my gosh. Gen 3 shiny, baby, let's go. The odds for that so low. It's so awesome that I did this live as well. It was really cool, and honestly, obviously, I needed a Machop to use Strength, so this was perfect. I ended up naming it after a member noodle. My memberships are only 99 cents, and I seriously suggest you guys check it out if you enjoy the channel. Helps me out, and it gives you guys a crap ton of perks. Anyway, with that out of the way, next up is Maxie. Now, he leads off with a Mightyena, which is super annoying like all Mightyenas are, but I do get a nice critical hit with Swift to take it out. Next up is a Crobat at level 38. Now, for some reason, the AI was just really stupid here. You saw how much confusion confusion did, and it gets healed up with a hyper potion, but obviously that's not enough to survive another confusion, so why he didn't go for bite, I have no idea. Last up is a camera up who takes some pretty decent damage and then hits itself in confusion, gets healed up with a super potion, takes another confusion, and we're able to use one more to take it out. Overall, this battle wasn't too bad besides the Marianas, but the Marianas always give me an issue. Team Aqua then steals a submarine, and for some reason it's up to a 10-year-old child to solve the issue. I don't know why, but I mean, that's Pokemon for you. Now it is time for the Team Aqua hideout. Now this part is normally no issue whatsoever. We just have to deal with this level 34 Poochyena, and obviously the only move we could really hit this thing with right now is Swift, and he has a super potion, so that's pretty annoying. I also get confused with Swagger, which is really annoying, and I end up hitting myself in confusion. I snap out the very next turn, get hit with Scary Face, and then another Swagger, so now my attack is through the roof, but I just keep hitting myself, but eventually I end up landing enough Swifts to take it out. Last up is Golbat, and he hits me with a bite, and I end up flinching, and I got pretty worried here that I would just keep flinching and eventually lose the battle, but I do end up connecting with a confusion to take him out and win the battle. Now with him out of the way, next up is Tate and Liza. Tate and Liza definitely wasn't an easy battle. Obviously it's a 2-on-1, and even though we do have a legendary Pokemon with really good stats, that being Mewtwo, it just wasn't enough honestly at level 45 without some luck involved. After a few attempts, I realized that I probably needed to go pick up the Shadow Ball TM in Mount Pyre, and that's exactly what I ended up doing. Shadow Ball is physical in this game, but I'm pretty sure it's still going to be helpful. Shadow Ball luckily is enough to one-shot the Zoktsu, and I used 2 more to take out the Solrock, and just like that, she's down to her last 2 Pokemon, and I think this is going pretty well considering that we're able to 2-shot the— oh, we're asleep, okay. Luckily for me, I got 1 turn sleep, which lets me take out the Lunatone the very next turn with Shadow Ball, and I'm extremely low on HP here, and for some reason, Claydol ends up going for the wrong move. It ends up going for Agent Power, which I end up living. And since I do outspeed the Claydol, 1 more Shadow Ball is going to be enough to take it out, and after only a few attempts after getting Shadow Ball, I was able to absolutely destroy Tate and Liza, with some luck involved, of course. And now that Tate and Liza's out of the way, next up is the double battle with Steven. Team Magma leads off with a Mightyena at level 42 and a Camerupt at level 36. Now Mightyena does have Intimidate, which lowers my attack by 1 stage, making Shadow Ball even do less, so I end up going for Confusion on Camerupt here, and Metang finishes it off the same turn with Psychic. Next out is Golbat, so I end up going for a Confusion for a nice 1-hit KO, which I was pretty surprised about, but of course 2 Poochyenas are out on the field at once, which just makes my life a little bit harder. For some reason, one of the Mightyenas ends up getting switched out into a Camerupt at level 44. Now I've played this game a ton, and I've never seen that happen in this battle before. I end up getting hit with the Swagger, which raises my attack by 2 stages, but of course now I am confused, so that at least means my Shadow Ball will do a little bit more damage if I have to use it, but luckily for me, Metang ends up taking out the Camerupt, and the Mightyena is back out. This turn was kind of funny. Both of these Mightyenas went for Swagger on the Metang, so now Metang's attack is absolutely through the roof, but that means if Metang can land a hit, it will definitely one-shot anything that comes its way. The only move I have to hit this thing with is a Shadow Ball, and it does a pathetic amount of damage considering this thing is only 4 levels lower than me, and also obviously Shadow Ball's resisted, but as soon as Metang landed a Metal Claw, it easily took down the Mightyena, and last up is a Crobat at level 43. My Shadow Ball ends up connecting, not doing too much damage, and then Metang hits it with a critical Metal Claw, which probably did a ton of damage considering his attack was +4. This battle actually wasn't that much of an issue, even though it did have 2 really good dark types. And while I was surfing, oh my goodness guys, it's the elusive, the legendary, the best Pokemon in the entire game, Tentacle. We have used this Master Ball on this boy because we do not want it to get away. Next up is Archie, and honestly I thought Mightyena was just gonna rip me in half pretty easily considering his typing, and the only thing I had was Shadow Ball, but he's stupid and goes for a Swagger, raising my attack, so I was able to easily like reverse Uno card this boy into oblivion. And next up is a Crobat at level 41. Now I end up going for a Confusion here, but Crobat goes for his own Confuse, right, confusing me, but luckily I don't hit myself in Confusion. That way I'm able to use Confusion to take out Crobat. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Last out is a Sharpedo at level 43. Now I end up going for a Shadow Ball here because it's the only thing I could hit this boy with. Hits me with a Slash, doing an okay amount of damage, but I'm still confused at this point, but luckily I don't hit myself in Confusion, connect with the Shadow Ball, get a critical hit, and I win. So that was pretty, I mean, best case scenario, really. Do you guys know what animal Rayquaza is based off of? Like, tell me like right now. Dragon? Oh, okay. Dragon these. Next up is the water type gym leader Juan. In-game time is 8 hours and 28 minutes, so we're definitely behind where Mew was. I'm not sure why. It's probably because of the move variety, but we'll see what happens. Juan leads off with a Love Disc at level 41, and now we have Earthquake, which is such an improvement compared to Shadow Ball because Shadow Ball was physical, and if we're gonna have a physical type move, it might as well be a good move like Earthquake. Even though I do get confused, I'm able to take down Love Disc relatively easy, and next up is a Crawdon at level 43. I end up going for an Earthquake a few times to take out the Crawdot. Next up is a Whiscash, and I just end up going for a Confusion, just doing over half. It hits itself in Confusion, and then one more is enough to take it out. Next up is Celio at level 43, and I end up going for an Earthquake a couple times, and it's left with just a sliver of HP, which is super annoying, and I end up running out of Earthquake PP, and then I take it out with one Confusion. And last up is Kingdra at level 46. So this battle was probably the best battle of all battles I've probably ever had, because Kingdra had the brilliant move that nobody's ever used before called Rest and Double Team with a Chesto Berry. I know that this is a new concept, but yeah, long story short, I lost. The very next attempt, Kingdra decides to go for the genius strategy of doing the same exact thing, and you know what made me mad is that it almost flippin' worked, because I ended up missing the Confusion that would have won me the game, but it got pretty bad. But I did end up getting lucky, and I ended up landing a Confusion to take it out and win the battle. So finally, Juan is out of the way. Next up is Victory Road, and then the Elite Four, and then the champion, Magikarp. Oh wait, I forgot about Wally again. Sorry, dude. I ended up teaching MewTwo Calm Mind, and you get that from Tate and Liza, so it actually ends up helping a lot, obviously with my Confusion that I still have, because I still have not learned Psychic, and I don't think I will anytime soon. Now that I have my Calm Mind set up, I'm able to take down Altaria with one Confusion. Delcatty goes down with one Confusion. Next up is a Magneton at level 41 who goes down to one super effective Earthquake. Next up is Roselia who goes down to one super effective Confusion. And last up is Gardevoir. He almost goes down to one Earthquake, but two is enough to take it out, and we beat Wally easily like always. Okay, it's really Elite Four time now. First up is Elite Four member Sydney. Now for Sydney, I actually did need to learn Shockwave. I just needed a special type move that could actually hit Dark type, so Confusion was out, so I just had to learn anything, and Shockwave was probably my best bet. Shockwave ends up absolutely destroying the Mightyena, and next up is a Shiftry, and it ends up getting switched out, but eventually ends up going down to Shockwave as well. The Cacturne gets destroyed. Next up's a Crawdon, who obviously gets destroyed by it, and last up is Absol at level 49, who also gets destroyed by Shockwave, so this was a pretty successful battle. I mean, at least for being a Psychic type who's barely overleveled and has some really crappy moves, I don't think this could have went any better. Next up is Phoebe, the Ghost type Elite Four member. Now I actually end up doing pretty well here, even though I get confused. I do get enough Calm Mind set up where I'm able to take out the Dusclops, and both of her Bayonets really easy with only one Confusion. Next out is her other Dusclops at level 51. Now this thing is more offensive than her last one and doesn't have Curse, so that's really good and something we don't have to worry about, so I'm able to take it down with only two Confusions. I accidentally go for Confusion here, and that almost lost me the battle. I was still able to connect with two Earthquakes luckily and win, but that was way too close. But Phoebe only took 2 attempts, so I really can't complain. Next up is Glacia, the Ice type gym leader, and I end up going into it with the same strategy I did for Sydney and Phoebe. I just needed a little bit more extra power, because at level 56 there was just no way I was able to win. So Calm Mind definitely came in clutch. Her first Celio goes down to one Shockwave, and next up is a Glalie at level 50, and I end up hitting that thing with a Shockwave as well, and it ends up living and then gets healed up, but I bring it right back down and take it out with only a few more Shockwaves. Next out is our other Glalie, and I end up going for a Confusion instead of Shockwave on this one, and I just end up taking it out only 2 hits. And next up is her other Celio at level 52, and I end up taking it out with one Shockwave. And last but not least is her Walrein. My HP does get relatively low here, but luckily Shockwave was able to one-shot the Walrein, and we end up defeating Glacia, which actually went a lot better than I expected. Next up is Elite Four member Drake. Did I do the same exact strategy I've done for everyone else? Yes, but I set up all the way this time, because honestly I'm behind time-wise, and this is a how fast can you beat video, so I'm not trying to stay around in this battle for another 50 minutes. Basically, I just set up 6 Calm Minds, and I sweep his entire team with Confusion, and I still find it absolutely hilarious we're still using Confusion. Anyway, with Drake out of the way, next up is the champion. Now, I don't have an opportunity to set up like I did on Drake, so the champion's definitely going to be a harder battle. Wallace leads off with a Wailord, so I end up going for only one Calm Mind here, and then I take out the Wailord with a Shockwave. Otherwise, it just would have done a lot of damage to me. I set up another Calm Mind here on the Tentacle, and then take it out with Confusion, and then I use a couple more Confusions to take out the Ludicolo, and the same thing happens to Whiscash. Next out is Gyarados, and he goes down to one Shockwave, and last up is a Melodic at level 58, and I end up going for a Confusion here, and it doesn't do quite half like I thought it would, and I end up getting hit with a Surf with only 22 HP left. I end up going for a Shockwave, crossing my fingers, and luckily it was enough to take it out. I was the same level of all these Pokemon, so this definitely did take some strategy. I mean, I know Mewtwo's a really good Pokemon, and the stats are really good, but considering where I normally am on these challenge runs, this is actually the lowest level I've been for quite a while. But we all knew this was possible with Mewtwo. The question is, what time did we get? Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Mewtwo. Good job, but how fast did you do it is the question. Let's see. It is 9:48. That's actually slower than Mew's time, so Mew better than Mewtwo? Question mark? Let me know down in the comments below why you think this is. I think it's move variety, honestly, but that's actually really surprising to see. And wait, before you go, guys, give me like 10 seconds of your time. If you honestly enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, or you have any suggestions, good or bad, make sure to leave them in the comments below because I'm always looking to improve my videos. If you're new here, I do these videos all the time and I have a ton of videos, so you guys could probably watch those for literal months. You'll have plenty of content to go through, don't worry. Like always, guys, thanks a ton for watching my stuff. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video, hopefully. Thanks for watching, like I said, and have a good one, guys.